What's up, dummies? Today we're going to react to the worst astronaut deaths ever. Apparently, there have been some astronauts that went out in space and then they just died. Now, I've never really heard about astronauts straight up dying, but we're going to find out about a ton that have passed away with crazy stories. Let's listen.
Vladimir Komarov.
All right, so this is the first guy, Vladimir Komarov. This is the guy who died. We're going to learn about it.
Soyuz 1. On April 22nd, 1967, Vladimir Komarov walked through the corridors of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, knowing he was likely walking to his death. The 40-year-old Soviet cosmonaut had been selected to pilot Soyuz 1, the first crewed flight of the Soviet Union's new spacecraft.
Okay, so he was the first one chosen to fly in the spacecraft, but he thought that he was going to die because the spacecraft wasn't ready.
To outpace America's Apollo program. But Komarov knew what his superiors were hiding from the public. His friend and fellow cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin had desperately tried to convince mission planners to delay the flight. Over 200 technical problems had been identified in the Soyuz spacecraft during pre-flight testing, including critical failures in the parachute system, unstable attitude control, and faulty heat shield bonding. Soviet engineers had submitted report after report documenting these dangerous defects.
So there was 200 problems with this spaceship that this guy was planning to get on, and he knew it. He knew that there was 200 problems, but they still forced him to get on it because they wanted to beat the USA in the space race.
But political pressure from the Kremlin overruled safety concerns.
Wow.
The mission was scheduled to coincide with...
Look at how sad he is, bro. He's literally reading this saying like, okay, you have to go on this spaceship and it's probably gonna explode. And he's so sad because he knows he's gonna explode.
It was scheduled to coincide with Lenin's birthday and the May Day parade, giving Communist Party leaders a propaganda victory they desperately needed. Komarov understood the impossible situation. If he refused to fly, his backup pilot, Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space and a Soviet hero, would take his place.
Yeah, so if he said no, then his best friend would have to go up there, and he knew that this thing was gonna explode. So you're telling me he risked his life for his friend?
Komarov couldn't let his friend die in a spacecraft he knew was defective. At 3:35 a.m. Moscow time on April 23rd.
That takes a lot of balls to be like, okay, I know I'm gonna die, but if I don't do it, then my friend's gonna die, but I'll choose to die. Wow, this guy sacrificed his life, but let's see what happens.
Soyuz 1 lifted off from Baikonur into the pre-dawn darkness. The problems began almost immediately. One of the spacecraft's 2 solar panels failed to deploy properly, cutting power generation in half and making it impossible to properly orient the craft toward the sun. Without adequate solar panel positioning, the spacecraft's batteries began draining rapidly. The ion sensors that controlled the craft's attitude became unreliable, causing Soyuz 1 to tumble uncontrollably through space. Komarov fought to stabilize his ship manually, using precious fuel reserves to fire the attitude control thrusters. Ground control monitored the mounting problems with growing alarm. The planned rendezvous with Soyuz 2, which was supposed to launch the next day with 3 cosmonauts aboard, was immediately canceled. After 18 increasingly desperate orbits, Mission Control ordered Komarov to attempt an emergency re-entry over the Soviet Union.
Okay, so they're happy. They're like, okay, we can now come back. But what happened when they came back?
As Soyuz 1 began its descent on April 24th, Komarov manually oriented his spacecraft for re-entry, knowing his life depended on systems that had already proven unreliable. The descent through the upper atmosphere proceeded normally at first, with the heat shield protecting the crew compartment as designed. But as the spacecraft slowed to subsonic speeds at an altitude of 23,000 feet, the main parachute container failed to open properly due to a design flaw that engineers had identified months earlier.
Wait, so without a parachute, is this spaceship that these 2 guys are in just gonna pummel into the ground?
The parachute became tangled within its container, providing virtually no drag to slow the spacecraft's descent. Komarov deployed the backup parachute system, but it immediately became twisted with the partially deployed main chute and the drogue parachute, creating a...
How does the backup system get tangled up with the main system? Who created this?
Tangled mess that was completely ineffective.
I'm scared for this guy. I don't want this guy to die, and I don't want this guy to die.
Soviet listening posts on the ground recorded Komarov's final transmissions as he plummeted toward Earth at over 250 miles per hour.
Oh my gosh.
He cursed the engineers and officials who had forced him to fly in a defective spacecraft.
Wow, he had a camera in there, and he was saying, I knew this was messed up. You guys suck at your job. Yeah, like all of you guys caused this.
Knowing he had less than a minute to live. At 7:24 a.m., Soyuz 1 struck the ground near Orenburg with tremendous force, creating a crater and instantly igniting the spacecraft's remaining fuel. The impact was so violent that the spherical descent module was completely flattened into a disc barely a meter high. Komarov's body was burned beyond recognition, fused to the twisted metal of his spacecraft. It took recovery teams hours to separate his remains from the wreckage. His death forced a complete overhaul of the Soviet space program, delaying crew flights for 18 months, while engineers redesigned the parachute system and addressed hundreds of other safety issues that political pressure had forced them to ignore.
This guy was savage because he risked his life for his friend's life. He gave his life for his friend's life. So that guy's cool. This guy right here, support to this guy.
Soyuz 11 crew.
Oh my gosh, this one is about 3 people in a crew that died. Oh no, dude, these are gonna be crazy.
On June 6th, 1971.
Okay, so this is 4 years after the first one happened. So 1971, I feel like they should know their stuff by now.
Soviet cosmonauts Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and Viktor Patsayev launched aboard Soyuz 11 from Baikonur Cosmodrome, beginning what appeared to be a routine mission to dock with Salyut 1, the world's first operational space station. The 3 men were experienced spaceflight veterans, with Dobrovolsky serving as commander, Volkov as flight engineer, and Patsayev as research engineer.
Okay, it seems like they got a good team.
Their mission was to spend 3 weeks aboard the space station, conducting scientific experiments and proving that humans could live and work in space for extended periods. The launch proceeded flawlessly, and 24 hours later, Soyuz 11 successfully docked with Salyut 1, making the crew the first humans to occupy a space station. For the next 22 days, the cosmonauts conducted a wide variety of experiments, including astronomical observations, materials processing, biological research, and Earth photography. They established new endurance records for spaceflight duration and proved that humans could adapt to long-term weightlessness. Their daily communications with ground control were upbeat and professional, with no indication of any problems aboard the station.
So what's
the crew exceeded all their planned objectives.
I feel like they're gonna, guess what you think's gonna happen to them? Because this is about deaths. I think they're gonna run out of food or something. And they'll be like, oh snap, we need to go get food. But Earth is like 20 days away. Oh, like there's a Walmart in space.
And even requested additional experiments to fill their remaining time. What do you guys think's
gonna happen? Don't cheat.
On June 29th, after completing their highly successful mission, the crew sealed the hatches between Salyut 1 and their Soyuz 11 spacecraft and prepared for the journey home. The undocking sequence proceeded normally at 21:28 Moscow time, with the spacecraft separating cleanly from the space station. 40 minutes later, the crew fired their service module engine for the deorbit burn, beginning their descent toward a landing site in Kazakhstan. All spacecraft systems appeared to be functioning normally as Soyuz 11 entered the upper atmosphere. The service module and orbital module separated from the descent module as planned, leaving the 3 cosmonauts sealed inside the small spherical capsule that would carry them through re-entry and landing.
Wait, so
the heat shield performed perfectly, protecting the crew compartment from the extreme temperatures generated by atmospheric friction. The drogue parachute deployed at the correct altitude, followed by the main parachute, which opened properly and slowed the spacecraft to a safe descent rate.
Okay, so
soft landing rockets fired automatically just before touchdown, cushioning the impact as Soyuz 11 settled gently onto the Kazakhstan steppe.
So they made it back to Earth. So what happened? Did they get eaten by a tiger or something?
2:17 a.m. on June 30th. Recovery helicopters were already circling overhead, and ground crews rushed to the spacecraft expecting to congratulate 3 heroes who had just set a new spaceflight duration record. When the recovery team opened the hatch of the descent module, they found all 3 cosmonauts still strapped in their seats, motionless and blue-faced. There were no signs of impact trauma or fire, but the men were clearly dead. Medical examination revealed that the crew had suffocated when a pressure equalization valve had opened prematurely during the descent sequence, allowing the cabin atmosphere to vent into the vacuum of space. The valve was designed to equalize cabin pressure with the outside atmosphere just before landing, but it had malfunctioned and opened while the spacecraft was still above the Kármán line at an altitude of 550,000 feet. The cabin depressurized in just 112 seconds, causing rapid decompression that the unprotected crew could not survive. Investigation revealed that the valve had been damaged during the separation sequence.
Whatever that means. That's crazy. So they were in the thing about to make it home, and they're just like, let's go. And then all of a sudden, I can't breathe. And they just died like that, still strapped in with the seatbelt, bro. Rest in peace, bro. Rest in peace. All right, let's go to the next one.
A practice that continues today. Challenger disaster, STS-51L.
Oh, so this is one where I think like the spaceship blew up or something? Let's learn
On the
about
morning
this.
of January 28th, 1986.
Wow, so this is getting like closer and closer to today's age, bro. I think by 1986 they would have learned how to, learn how to fly.
Space Shuttle Challenger sat on Launch Pad 39B at Kennedy Space Center, ready for its...
Wow, that's in Orlando, Florida, bro. I've been next to that space center actually. Wow.
10th mission into space. The crew of 7 included Commander Francis Dick Scobie, pilot Michael Smith, mission specialists Judith Resnick, Ellison Onizuka, and Ronald McNair, payload specialist Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe, a high school teacher from New Hampshire, who had
What the hell is a high school teacher?
been selected as the first participant in NASA's Teacher in Space program.
Wow, bro. He was a teacher, and then he went on this freaking spaceship, and he died? Imagine being the first person in the world chosen to go on, and then you die.
Delayed multiple times due to weather conditions and technical issues, creating mounting pressure from NASA management and the media to proceed with the mission. The night before launch, engineers at Morton Thiokol, the company that manufactured the shuttle's solid rocket boosters, discovered that overnight temperatures had dropped to 18 degrees Fahrenheit, far below the minimum temperature at which the rubber O-ring seals in the rocket boosters had been tested. Senior engineers Roger Boisjoli and Alan McDonald strongly recommended postponing the launch, warning that the cold, stiffened O-rings might not seal properly and could allow hot gases to escape from the rocket motors. During a heated teleconference that lasted until midnight, NASA officials challenged Thiokol's concerns, arguing that there was no conclusive proof that cold weather would cause seal failure. Under intense pressure to avoid another delay,
so they didn't want to delay the spaceship launch because everyone was like, come on, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for this. But the engineers were like, bro, this could mess with the spaceship. And they were like, nah, let's just do it.
Thiokol management overruled their own engineers and gave NASA permission to proceed with the launch. At 11:38 a.m. EST, with hundreds of spectators watching, including McAuliffe's family and students from her school.
Oh my God, the teacher's family and the teacher's students was watching like, oh, see you later, teacher. Oh,
Challenger lifted off into a clear blue sky. The shuttle's 3 main engines and 2 solid rocket boosters functioned normally during the first minute of flight, accelerating the vehicle toward orbit. However, at 59 seconds after liftoff, high-speed cameras captured a small flame appearing near the bottom joint of the right solid rocket booster. The cold, stiffened O-rings had failed exactly as the engineers had predicted, allowing superheated gas at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit to escape and act like a blowtorch against the external fuel tank. The flame rapidly grew larger, burning through the strut that connected the right booster to the external tank and weakening the tank's structure.
Did they all catch on fire in the air? Oh my gosh, that would be crazy to see your teacher on fire.
At 72 seconds into the flight, traveling at Mach 1.92 at an altitude of 48,000 feet, the compromised external tank ruptured, releasing thousands of gallons of liquid hydrogen and oxygen that mixed explosively. The massive explosion didn't kill the crew immediately. The crew compartment, built to withstand the forces of launch and re-entry, was thrown clear of the explosion and began falling toward the Atlantic Ocean in a ballistic arc. Emergency oxygen systems activated automatically, and at least some of the crew members were likely conscious during the fall. Pilot Michael Smith was heard saying, uh-oh, just before the vehicle broke apart.
No way. He's like, uh-oh. Boom!
Indicating that the crew was aware something had gone catastrophically wrong. The crew compartment fell for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, reaching a speed of over 200 miles per hour before striking the ocean surface 18 miles offshore. The impact with the water was unsurvivable, killing all 7 crew members instantly.
Oh my gosh, bro.
NASA suspended shuttle flights for 32 months, while a presidential commission investigated the accident and implemented design changes to prevent similar failures.
Bro, I mean, y'all gotta listen to the engineers. They know what they're doing. Can you imagine being that teacher? Like, you're in the cockpit with all like the people, all the spaceship people, all the astronauts, and they all know what they're doing. And then one of the head astronauts is like, uh-oh. You're probably like, what? Because that teacher probably had no idea about anything that was going on. The teacher probably just teaches, math or something. The teacher has no idea about astronauts and stuff. So when you hear the captain astronaut say, uh-oh, you're like, oh, we're done. Here's the next one. Oh my gosh, don't tell me all of these people passed away, bro. Why does this look AI? Maybe he did some AI editing on their faces, but I don't know. Columbia disaster, hopefully all these people did not pass away.
STS-107. On January 16th, 2003,
2003, bro, that was like literally like 22 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Space Shuttle Columbia lifted off from Kennedy Space Center, carrying
another one in Kennedy Space Center. Why is everyone dying at Kennedy Space Center, bro? I'm never stepping foot over there again.
Crew of 7 astronauts on a 16-day scientific research mission, designated STS-107. The crew included Commander Rick Husband, pilot
dude's last name is Husband,
William McCool, mission specialists Kalpana Chawla, David Brown, Laurel Clark, Michael Anderson.
That was funny. He said Kalpana Chawla, and I was like, okay, that's the weirdest name ever. And then he said David Brown. Boy, that's a basic name ever. Okay, I need to chill. These people already died.
Island Ramon. The mission was dedicated to scientific research, with the crew operating over 80 experiments in a research module housed in Columbia's cargo bay. During the launch, cameras captured what appeared to be a large piece of foam insulation breaking away from the external fuel tank.
Oh, you know something's messed up whenever you see the launch. You know this guy's got a camera right here. He's like, ooh, nice. And then you see a big old piece fall off. You're like,
tank's bipod ramp area and striking Columbia's left wing leading edge. The impact occurred 81.7 seconds after liftoff, when the shuttle was traveling.
Who did that math? Who was like, okay, approximately 81 seconds.
At approximately 1,568 miles per hour at an altitude of 65,000 feet. The foam piece weighed approximately 1.67 pounds and measured about 21 by 27 inches, making it much larger than typical debris that occasionally separated from the external tank.
Okay, let's see what
NASA
happens.
Engineers reviewed the high-speed film footage of the impact, but concluded that foam strikes were a common occurrence that had never caused significant damage.
They said, oh, this is normal, but then I bet they end up dying because of it.
For the next 16 days, the crew conducted their scientific experiments completely unaware that their spacecraft had been fatally damaged.
Oh, okay, so a part of it broke off, and these people didn't even know. The people in the spacecraft didn't even know.
They completed all planned research activities, working.
What is he doing? He's playing checkers?
In shifts around the clock to maximize the scientific return from their mission. Their daily communications with mission control were routine and upbeat, with no indication that anyone suspected a problem with the shuttle. On February 1st, 2003, Columbia began its re-entry sequence over the Pacific Ocean, firing its orbital maneuvering system engines to slow down and drop out of orbit. As the shuttle descended through the upper atmosphere at over 17,000 miles per hour, it began encountering the first wisps of atmospheric gas that would gradually slow it down through friction. At first, the re-entry proceeded normally, with the crew following standard procedures for landing at Kennedy Space Center.
Are they just going to slam into the ground?
As Columbia descended through increasingly dense atmosphere, superheated plasma began flowing through the hole in the left wing's leading edge.
That's the hole where the foam bounced off.
The temperature inside the wing structure quickly reached over 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit,
you could cook
far exceeding the melting point of aluminum and causing the wing's internal framework to fail. Sensors throughout the left side of the spacecraft began registering abnormal temperature readings and system failures, but the crew was not immediately aware of the severity of the situation.
Really?
At 8:59 a.m. EST, while traveling over Texas at an altitude of 207,000 feet, Columbia's left wing finally separated from the fuselage due to the structural damage caused by the superheated gas intrusion. The shuttle immediately became uncontrollable and broke apart due to aerodynamic forces, with debris scattered across Texas and Louisiana. The crew compartment was destroyed in the breakup, and all 7 astronauts died instantly.